Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School podcast. Coming at you, I believe Media Day has concluded. If it's still going on, we wouldn't know because the Knicks don't announce or televise anything. So shout out to the beat reporters doing their duty over at Tarrytown. I am joined by two friends and two special guests today. I've been introducing Andrew for a long time, so I'm just going to introduce DJ first. Hi, DJ. How are you?
I'm good. It's been fun, as you said, following along with our intrepid beat writers covering the Knicks, trying to get an idea of what's been going on at Media Day. But, the season is basically here for all intents and purposes, and it's a very exciting time for sure.
I really enjoyed going on the YouTube, the Knicks official YouTube channel earlier this morning, trying to search for like, hey, did they have something scheduled or whatever? And seeing that the most recent live thing was in 2022, and it was not called Media Day, it was called Content Day. Remember that little bit where they were like, we're gonna one up the media by having our own thing on the same day that the NBA requires us to have a different thing.
Got to control the message.
Always got it. Listen, it's 1984 every year. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Terrible, John. How are you? It's a Mets thing,
DJ.
night? No, they're off. So they finally had a day where they didn't disappoint me. I'm ready, very ready for the Knicks to be back in our lives, which is why I welcomed the very pointless exercise that was Knicks Media Day. But let's talk about it.
I'm going to push back right off the bat. I would give this, as far as meaty, #meaningful content, I would give today somewhere between a C+ and a B-. I'm a generous grader, so I'm going to give it a B-. DJ, what grade would you give it?
I think a B- is fair. Maybe a C+. I mean, there were a couple of things that I thought were instructive for what we could be seeing. I think Mike Brown specifically had some interesting comments, also very guarded in some areas regarding starting lineup, which I think was the number one question for most Knicks fans coming into Media Day, although we all think we knew he wasn't going to divulge that information this early. He may not even know what he's going to do with the starting lineup, but he mentioned, the idea of getting Jalen Brunson off the ball, getting him some more clean catch and shoot threes, which has been a theme for me for now a couple of seasons. So, that and, Josh Hart being injured basically, and then it's may linger into the season. That's also another thing to sort of monitor. So yeah, there are some things to sort of chew on a little bit.
Andrew, I'm assuming you're giving this one an F or an F-.
An incomplete. What I don't know. Look, I don't want to poo-poo on anybody's fun. Okay,
that's exactly what you're doing. But continue.
Yes, you're right. I hate fun. That is the established roles that we've.
Thank God for me
here at Knicks. Yes, the master of fun.
Mets lose a few games now. Andrew is the miserable
nothing
one.
Matters. Yes, my nihilism is creeping out. DJ, look, I did not think we were going to get a starting five announcement today. I figured we would get the same thing that Jalen and Josh said about Tibbs when they were on their pod and said the same thing. Mike Brown said he wanted to play fast and the ball would be in Jalen Brunson's hands and wanted to get him more off-ball threes. I'm quoting things he said in his intro presser 2 months ago. Like, these are not new developments that I learned today. If I got a starting lineup change or a starting lineup announcement, that was a development. It very much was, let's go through the exercise of introductions and get the season started, which is the exciting thing about today.
So this is where me and you differ, Andrew. I'm able to do something called read between the lines, whereas you just see black, white, maybe a shade of gray or two. And thank God that you have me here to get into the nuance of what we're really dealing with. First, before we move any further, listen, man, I love kicking a good man while he's down, and you are down bad right now, brother. So.
I just want to know what I missed, apparently, from we're very well media trained Knicks team. Mikal Bridges, that's right. He said things. That's right. I forgot. He said all those things.
We're gonna get into it. Before we do, a quick programming note. If you tuned in expecting to hear us talk about the third top Knick of the last 25 seasons, that discussion is coming, but we want to do the media day thing first. As a reminder, be sure to follow Knicks Film School wherever you get your social media. at Knick Film School. That is SKOOL. If you're watching on YouTube right now, thank you for watching. Make sure you turn on those alerts so the next time we go live, you can be alerted to that. Unlike the Knicks, who don't do anything live on their YouTube channel. Subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, sign up for bonus content either on Substack so you could read me every day, or Patreon, where you get to hear me and DJ and Benji spout wisdom on a regular basis. Okay,
I take back everything I said.
Yeah.
BKG has the right comment here. You missed Josh Hart revealing his finger is still fucked up. You know what? I'm wrong. We get an A+ for today. That's investigative journalism that we did by taking a picture of his hand.
Well, speaking of investigative journalism, we're going to get to Hart in a second because I agree that is the most notable thing to come out of Media Day. Ian Begley just filed a story in which he notes in regards to the starting lineup. Before Mike Brown was hired, the Knicks talks with some free agents included the idea that Towns and Robinson would be starting together in 2025-26 season. I don't know about you guys. I feel like the tea leaves that I have tried to pick up on over the last few months, I've certainly become of the opinion that the Knicks are going to, or at least coming into training camp, Mike Brown was of the opinion that he's going to lean towards a starting lineup with Mitch in it. DJ, you on the same page as me?
I think right now that's where I would lean. Yes.
Okay. Andrew?
Yeah, I would lean that way too. He also said things about playing fast and playing small, which leave the door open for me to wait until they actually play a game.
Very fair. So let's start with the Hart thing, because that's the only piece of news, quote unquote, that came out of Media Day. I was going back and forth with Jason, who, I mean, nothing's better than going back and forth with Jason on Twitter. And he's complaining already that if Josh Hart's finger is fucked up, why not get the surgery now? And you get a month where you're not playing real games and you get that time to heal. It sounds like he wants to see if he could play through it. And then if he can't play through it, there was some allusion to the fact that, and for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, Josh Hart had a procedure on a finger this summer. I guess there was something either during the procedure or after the procedure that has left the finger not as it should be, and he is going to have to wear a splint. So he's going to try to play through it. And then, yes, it feels like there was the illusion of like, if it's really bad, maybe he'll get a procedure done during the season, although he didn't actually say that. That's what I'm just kind of assuming, because obviously if it's really affecting him, that's what he should do. I don't have a huge issue with this. Do either of you guys? Because I think that this is fine.
Well, I mean, it's just concerning. I mean, there's a picture I saw.
The injury is concerning. His
right.
approach. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear.
Right.
His approach
yes.
to it, I don't have an issue with.
I don't think that. Yeah, this seems like to be something to where it would make sense to try to play through it. It's a shooting hand. A guy that is already sort of struggling. Yeah, and that's from last season, or this is from
today.
That's a jacked up finger.
Yeah,
that I mean, if you're not watching on YouTube, I mean,
that's gnarly.
Yeah, so that's his ring finger on his right hand with significant swelling around the knuckle closest to his the tip of his finger. That is,
it's like there's a little fig in his knuckle.
Yeah.
And then the rest of his finger makes a right or a left, whatever it is. Yeah,
it makes a turn, a sharp turn.
I mean, DJ, you know from playing, this is a common, like you jam your finger on a rebound or on another player. Like this is a thing that happens all the time when you play basketball. I want to interrupt. Finish what you were saying, DJ.
Yeah, well, it feels like if he already had an injury and then he had the procedure and then re-injured it. I mean, I'm not obviously no doctor. It would seem to me that there is some structural things going on there that is going to make it more susceptible to maybe to further injury. So listen, he's getting the best medical advice. So he's obviously been told that you could theoretically play through this. So I don't have an issue with that. I'm just based on what we're seeing visually at Media Day regarding the finger. It's a big concern for a guy that, whether he starts or not, is going to be a massively important player on this team.
I was about to take some notes on what DJ was saying because I uncovered my nifty Knicks notepad, which I think I got when I was like 14, and I realized I didn't bring a pencil or a pen. So We're gonna just look at the notepad for now. I don't know.
I got a thing of pens. With
Thanks so much. You want to run it over here with
you got it.
Okay. I don't know what else there's to say about Josh Hart. He's going to try to play through it, and we'll see how it goes.
I am concerned, by the way, if anybody cares about my opinion on what happened with Josh Hart. I know you only wanted to hear what DJ had to say, but I actually am concerned. And if DJ, you said the thing, I would trust the best medical staff in the league over my opinion. But a guy that tries to play through pain and is hesitant to shoot the ball, I would like to see that this doesn't hinder him. And if we're a week in and he's 1 for 7 from 3, which I'm more concerned about the 7 than the 1, I'm going to be very concerned that Josh Hart's game is affected by this. If he's avoiding contact because he's got a jacked up finger, if he's not playing as aggressive as we like the way Josh Hart to play, it's why it's going to play out on the court. I will trust the very highly touted medical staff to know more than I do, though, but it is a concern of mine.
I thought you had shared your opinion of this already when you were making comments about the finger, but
I just put the thing on the screen. That's all I did.
Listen, you guys have to fight again. I'm trying to stay in between, literally, figuratively, between the two of you. Since I
have not mentioned the name Karl-Anthony Towns yet.
Yeah,
no.
Let's keep it calm.
We're gonna get to Cat. Here's my hot take. My hot take is that maybe this is a blessing in disguise, because if Josh Hart has to go out for a period of time to get a procedure, or if his shooting is just not to the point where it's serviceable, maybe that is the thing that leaves the door open or makes it easier, makes it more palatable for Mike Brown to make a starting lineup change, which I don't know. I'm kind of wouldn't mind seeing at this point, but
the last thing before we move on, the Knicks don't have a ton of wings on their roster. And that's with Josh Hart healthy. If you remove him, and I'm talking about the wings that can guard a 3, they can guard a 4. Like those guys, Knicks don't have a lot of them. And if you want to count Yabusele in that mix, I think that's kind of a stretch. But
I'm not.
So if Hart's going to miss significant time or be hampered, I mean, their wing depth already is going to be right off the bat compromised, and that is a concern for a team that has a lot of guards and wing-ish players, but your true wings, it's Anunoby, it's Bridges, it's Hart, and then you just hope for the best. So that's why when I said Hart is, whether he starts or not, is just a very important piece of this team, because they just don't have a ton of wings in their room right now.
So I don't want to go too far off the deep end right off the bat, but I will point out that yet again, in this column that Ian Begley just dropped, Deuce McBride's name was brought up as a, not, I don't want to say as a trade candidate, but in writing about the possible ways that the Knicks could open up more room under the second apron to accommodate both the salaries of, I would assume, Landry Shamet and Malcolm Brogdon. Deuce McBride's name was put right there alongside Tyler Kolek and Pacome Dadier. Now, I understand if you want to be like, well, he's just doing that because those 3 players all make not – Andrew just went away. He's sick of me. Those players don't make a lot of money, so he's doing his due diligence. He went away again. But
I'm saying goodbye to my wife who's leaving for the day. I will be right back, Jonathan.
Listen, that's fine.
I will be back to deal with my work wife in a second.
Tell your work wife that I know. I would say tell your real wife that I've been your work wife for longer than she's been your actual wife. So if one of the 2 of us is allowed to get sick of you, it's me before her. I don't care that she lives with you. Anyway, also shout out to Steph Bondi. Stephen Bondi has brought this up a few times in recent articles and podcast appearances. Again, not saying that Deuce McBride is a trade candidate, but just alluding to the possibility. I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here.
Yeah.
You just brought up the lack of wing depth. Fred VanVleet of the Houston Rockets just went down with what seems like it will be a season-ending injury yesterday. That is a team that has designs on competing for a championship this season. Deuce McBride is not Fred VanVleet. We don't need to talk about that anymore. He's not. But he is a guard, and if the Knicks... And meanwhile, Tari Eason is a player that I'm not the first person to mention it. Many Knicks fans have mentioned, hey, is there a swap there that makes sense? Tari Eason's a wing. He is also extension eligible, much like Deuce will be as of December 31st of this year. Just that, again, there are might be possibilities out there that, depending on your view of McBride, depending on your view of how this team should play, I could see at least, I don't know, I could see maybe this becoming a thing. That's all.
Yep. Well, two things. One, McBride extension eligible, so that might play a part in
December 31st.
December 31st. So that's coming up in a couple of months. And then regarding Tari Eason, I understand the affection some Knicks fans have for him. I just wonder about him as a player in a Mike Brown system. I don't think Mike Brown necessarily, and if he comes here and plays amazingly, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but he doesn't seem like a player that would necessarily flourish in an offense designed on quick decision making and shooting and spacing. And so I do wonder about the fit there, but theoretically it would make some sense. And we also don't know what Houston, how they view a Deuce McBride in terms of handling some of that lead guard duties over there. But yeah, I mean, Deuce is an interesting case when the extension is on the table. Potentially, you wonder about a guy that took a well below market deal for several seasons is going to want to make some of that up in a renegotiation potentially with the Knicks. So,
it would be a renegotiation, but it's a little fuzzy now because it's up to 140% of the average NBA player's salary in the season in which the extension begins, which actually won't happen for a year and a half after he signs the damn thing. So by the time the extension kicks in, the first year of that extension should be well north of $20 million a year, which I'm not sure the Knicks are running to give that to Deuce McBride. So look, I'm getting far afoul. My apologies. But in regards to the starting lineup, I thought Josh Hart being very I don't say he was talking out of both sides of his mouth, because he wasn't. He was being very clear. He will do what the team requires. He talked all last season about selflessness. He's going to be selfless and the whole thing. But he was also unequivocal in saying, I view myself as a starter. I'm a starter in this league. And he also made sure to mention that he's coming off the best season of his career. Now, I think there are probably some varying opinions on whether, how Knicks fans feel about Josh Hart last season versus some other seasons. DJ, I see you want to say something? But,
well, yeah, it's like, is the best season for Josh Hart the best for the New York Knicks?
There you go.
Which is, you can have your best individual season and it not necessarily be the most valuable for the team you're playing for. I think that's where I think a lot of people push back on that.
Andrew, we've both heard a lot about Josh Hart offline. Again, I think I know what you're going to say. His tone during that answer, or his verbiage during that answer, didn't concern you in the slightest.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's fair.
Josh Hart's not a person I'm ever going to worry about, like, doing what's best for the team, taking a role that
I
might
agree.
not be what's like I know the thing I did note from his comments about Tibbs was that he said he put me in a position to get paid. Not like best position to win, best position for my career. It was just position to get paid. But I mean, he's apparently the one that went to Tibbs and finally said, like, take me out of the starting five in the playoffs. So I'm never worried about Josh Hart when it comes to on the court, like worrying about his role, complaining about his role, in that sense.
I'm not worried about him complaining. I more look at this sort of thing as like, this analogy could be wildly off base, but like an NBA locker room is like a Jenga tower, a healthy locker room. And if you poke one block out, it shouldn't affect the integrity of the Jenga tower. And like, to me, if Josh Hart has to get demoted to the bench, that's like poking a block out. It shouldn't affect anything, but it is one block that has been displaced, and it's a new coach. And like, the more, hopefully there's no blocks that get that poked, and he loves going to the bench. You see where I'm going with this?
So DJ, it's been a long time since I've played Jenga, but when you poke the block out, you then take the block and put it someplace else, right?
Correct. On top.
So you're just putting Josh Hart in a different spot on the tower.
Yes.
You've bastardized the analogy. It's a shame.
Or I made it make sense to what I'm saying, that Josh Hart will just fit in to a different role and be completely fine. If you take one of the foundational pieces out, which there's your nuance. Is Josh Hart a foundational piece?
Sure.
Like, will the whole thing collapse? But I think they're fine.
I'm not concerned about it, but he could have gotten up there and said, I don't care whether I start or not. Let me put this story to bed right now. He didn't say that. And the fact that he didn't say that, and I know Josh Hart says whatever the hell's on his mind, which we never had to worry about under the previous head coach.
Right. Well, that's the thing. That was the leash. It wasn't just the on-court stuff. Tibbs did give Hart the leash to say whatever he wanted to say and brush it all off. We don't know what Mike Brown is going to feel about Josh Hart speaking his mind whenever he wants, whenever he seems to want to. So I think that is where when you talk about the off the court stuff, the dichotomy between coach and player, that's where it can get a little squirrely a bit, because I think Josh Hart has been, he was given a lot of freedom under Tom Thibodeau. He may get the same freedom under Mike Brown, but it's likely going to be very different. And I think he's going to have to figure out how to adjust to that. And then Mike Brown is also going to have to figure out how to coach a guy that is accustomed to a certain way of playing and operating and dealing with the media and all those things. So I think both player and coach have to figure this relationship out. And it's early, and I'm guessing it's going to be fine, but we're going to have to see it. And that to me is at least something to monitor. Not a concern, but just something to look at.
That's all it is.
Am I missing something? Like, the second part of the quote is him saying, yeah, whatever Mike Brown wants to do or doesn't want to do, I'm cool with. It would be extremely selfish for me to go out there and demand to start. Like, he said all the correct things.
And if you want to say the first part of the quote in which he says, I'm a starter in this league. I'm pretty sure I got that line right.
Yeah, I'm a starter in this league. I think I deserve to be a starter in the league. Yeah.
If you want to put that under the umbrella of Josh Hart wants to make sure everybody listening knows that he's a confident individual and that's all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's literally nothing to worry about, because for all we know, after he got off that dais, he went right up to Mike Brown and was like, hey man, just so you know, whatever you want to do, like, I'm cool with, I just want to win. Maybe that's the case. We don't know. That's all. It's like so much stuff. We just don't know.
He said that exact same quote. I'm a starter in this league. I believe I'm a starter, when Tibbs took him out of the starting five in the playoffs. This is what he said under Tom Thibodeau too.
I know.
I wouldn't read into the quote too much. I believe he believes in himself. Good. I believe in myself too. I also believe he will do what's best for the Knicks. That's where I am at the end of the day.
I think we're all in agreement on that. He will do what's best for the Knicks. And
I agree.
On that note, we could move on to what I found. Speaking of getting used to a different way of going about their business, the most interesting quote of the day from Jalen Brunson when asked about getting used to Mike Brown's system. It's going to take some time. I'm excited to learn more about his philosophies and concepts, which I read that part and I chuckled as I did now a little bit, because it almost sounds like it's like when you talk to two people who had some sort of a meeting or are getting ready to enter into a partnership, and one person's like all gung-ho and everything, and the other person is just taking a little bit more of a cautious approach. It feels like Jalen Brunson is being the slightly more cautious approach. Where I find it particularly interesting is we had Mike Brown getting up there, and DJ, you quote tweeted this, with the notion of getting Jalen Brunson more catch and shoot threes, which we know he could be extremely successful in an offense that gets him more catch and shoot threes, because he did it with Julius Randle, who we may or may not be talking about in a little while. And that was brilliant, because what did Jalen Brunson shoot on catch and shoot threes that season? Like 45% or some ridiculous number.
Yeah, it was over 40%.
Yeah, it was a really good number. Then you got Cat going up there a little bit later and talking about it and making a comparison to Steph Curry. And while I would love for Jalen Brunson to emulate Steph Curry and some of the things he does, Steph Curry moving on, like getting quote unquote off-ball threes, is a very different animal from the sort of off-ball threes that Jalen Brunson was getting off of Julius Randle. So I was just curious what you guys thought of this, and if, again, any level of concern about, are all the parties of importance on the same page?
Yeah, I'll take it quick. I think they're going to be on the same page. I've heard certain media members talk about, whether or not Jalen Brunson is going to be willing to sort of cede some of the on-ball usage in the Mike Brown system. And I don't have any concerns over this. I feel like Jalen Brunson literally will do anything required if it's going to make the team better and give them a better chance to win. So I don't think that'll be an issue in terms of the willingness to play the way Mike Brown wants to play. And it's going to be a give and take. And Mike Brown did allude to the fact that when it's clutch time, Jalen Brunson is going to have the ball in his hands. So I think was maybe a bit of just a message to his superstar. Like, listen, it's going to change a little bit, but when it's nut crushing time, it's going to be very similar to how you operated under Tom Thibodeau. So it's not all going to be different. But in terms of, the first 45 minutes or 40 minutes of the game, I do think giving Jalen Brunson more time off the ball is going to be advantageous to everyone. And yeah, it's not going to be Steph Curry. No, because no one is Steph Curry. And I didn't see the cat quote or hear it. I thought he was comparing himself to Steph Curry, which wouldn't put it past him.
I was about to say, don't put anything past Cat.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Jalen Brunson did, in that 23-24 season, the second half, the post-Julius team did get accustomed to more off-ball usage in terms of just giving him angles and driving gaps off the ball to come back and get it. So I don't think this will be a foreign concept. And if they play faster, that should lend itself to more Jalen Brunson easy offense, which just needs to be the focus of this offense, because you just need him to have a sustainable season, not just his best individual season statistically, but a season that is going to allow him to carry it over through how many games they end up playing, the full 82 plus, hopefully a lot more in the playoffs. I think that is where Mike Brown's coming from, and I think that's the right approach.
Mr. Claudio?
You said it, DJ. What I care about most is how they look in crunch time, because that was the biggest point of frustration I had last year. How heavy ISO it was with Brunson, how little Cat was involved in the offense in crunch time. I want to see what that looks like, and already hearing the ball be in Jalen Brunson's hands isn't a cause for concern. It's notable. It's also not a bad idea. Give the ball to the clutch player of the year in crunch time. There are opportunities to find offense and catch and shoot opportunities and playing with more pace. And we saw this a little bit in summer league, that they were getting the ball over half court in like 6 seconds, 5 seconds, rather than like just getting across at the 16-second mark. So I believe Jalen Brunson, to what Kat said, is going to have a lot of fun this year in a much more advanced and high-powered offense. My thing to look for is what they look like in crunch time, though, personally.
The only thing I'll say, and then I think we could close the book on media day, unless there's anything else you guys want to hit on, is Tom Thibodeau was a great coach for Jalen in the sense that he pushed him to be the best version of himself that Jalen always kind of, I think, envisioned was the best version of himself. Like, Tibbs pushed him to lean into the tendencies that already were strengths and said, hey man, like, I think of you a hell of a lot more than just as a backup point guard who's now getting a starting job. Like, you could be a top 5 player in this league. And he emboldened him to go do all the things that he was already doing, except do a lot more of them. And yes, expand his game in certain areas that made sense for him to expand his game, i.e. the pull-up 3-point shooting. Mike Brown, it sounds like he's going to challenge him in a slightly different way and push him to be a different version of a player than he's been. And I'm curious how that adjustment goes. I agree with both of you that nobody cares about winning more than Jalen Brunson, but even if you care about winning more than anything, it doesn't mean it's not a tricky adjustment. I'm sure it is going to be tricky in some respects for him. So, but he's Jalen Brunson, so he'll be fun. Anything else?
Well, I'll just say is, like, if your goal is to give Jalen Brunson as much space and room and pace to operate, then it does sort of contradict maybe a double big look. And that's where I think I go back to, if you're going to have Cat be a hub of your offense in a Sabonis-esque way, and Jalen Brunson in the way that you would use De'Aaron Fox is have him loaded up in the right corner and come flying off a pin down into a dribble handoff with Sabonis, and you can run offense through that. That is harder if Mitchell Robinson is hanging out in the dunker spot. So I do think there is going to be a push and pull with how do you maximize the offense, Towns as a passing hub, Brunson as an off-ball operator, with the idea that you need to have another big playing with Karl-Anthony Towns to hold up defensively. And I think that is the ultimate question, I think, going into the season right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna add. Andrew, last words on media day.
I'm excited that there's a blue and orange team that hasn't disappointed me yet back in my life. Okay. That's where I am with Knicks Media Day. Welcome back into my life, New York Knicks.
There you go. It's a shame the Jets can't wear blue and orange uniforms as well.
Who?
Sorry. I think you're hearing things.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we do this? Oh, here we go. It's time for the reveal. Drum roll, please. 3, 2, 1. Hey! There he is. Look at that smile. All right. The number 3 Knick of the last 25 seasons is indeed Julius Randle, whose resume we are looking at right now. He attended Kentucky for one season. He was drafted 7th overall in 2014 by the Lakers. He broke his leg in the first quarter of his first game. Signed with the Knicks in 2019. 3 years, 61, 62, something like that, with a third-year team option. And then he signed an extension with them in the 2021 offseason, and then got pretty close to, I don't know, maybe talking extension with them again, but wasn't to be. He won the 2021 Most Improved Player Award, selected to 3 All-Star teams and 2 All-NBA teams. Second in total points, assists, field goals made, three-pointers made, and free throws made in the requisite time period, and third in total rebounds and minutes since the start of the 2000-2001 season. And then his 160 double-doubles and 8 triple-doubles are both second in those respective categories in the time frame we're talking
Behind who and who, fellas?
The triple-doubles is Josh Hart. That's easy.
Yes, that's correct.
Double-doubles.
David Lee, 174. Josh Hart, I believe, is up to, I think it's no, it's not 11. It's more than that. But Josh Hart is number 1 on the list, ahead of Kurt Thomas, Carmelo Anthony, and Ennis Freedom on the double-doubles list, by the way.
His mama called him Enes Kanter. I'm going to call him Enes Kanter.
Can you name the 3 players in the 2014 draft that have more career points than Julius Randle?
How many?
3.
Oh, I thought you said another number. That have more career points than Julius Randle
In the 2014 draft.
I don't. That's not a draft that sticks out.
So that's the Andrew
Is that
Wiggins
Jokic?
draft. That is Jokic. Well done. Jokic.
So you got one.
Jokic
got one.
number 1 with over 16,000 points.
Is it Clancy Early?
No. Anthony Early. I want to see if he's last.
No, he's not last.
Guys that were drafted, he's 39th on this list.
Oh, Embiid.
Joel Embiid's below Randle. He is 5th on this list with
I mean, I guess.
12,523 points.
I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of. Wait, so hold on. This was the Embiid draft.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Oh well, no, he's missed time. I was gonna say Wiggins might have more points than Randle.
Andrew Wiggins, 14,169 career points. Julius Randle has 13,517 career points. There's one you're missing at number 3.
Give me 1 sec. Give me 1 sec.
Okay. People in the chat, if you have a guess, please do say so. We're looking at the player that scored the 3rd most points.
Was it
20?
Was he picked after Randle?
Yes. I'll even say the 13th pick in the draft and went to the team that Julius now plays on.
Was drafted by the team that Julius now plays on?
Yes. Went 13th to the Timberwolves.
Oh, wait, no. Jesus Christ.
I'm blanking.
Now I'm
on this
looking
one.
stupid.
Wow.
It's not that
Then
hard,
got
but-
traded for Jimmy Butler.
Oh, Laurie Marketing?
No.
Levine.
Oh,
Zach
Levine.
Levine.
Yeah,
There you
okay.
go. Zach Levine is 3rd on this list with 13,590 career points. Joel Embiid, the 5th on this list, also a loser. And then 6th on this list is a current New York Knick, Jordan Clarkson.
Oh, wow. Okay.
12,000 points for his career.
On that note, okay. How do we begin this discussion, fellas? Because I think that Julius Randle, well, we could, I forgot about this because it's almost all uniform. Every single faculty member, with the exception of one, voted Julius Randle as the third, number 3 Knick of the last 25 years. I'll have to confront Sean with a W.
Tomorrow. He will be on with us tomorrow to talk
well,
about
that
why
makes sense.
he ranked Randle number 2, because tomorrow we'll be revealing number 2.
Yeah, and I have a funny feeling it's more about the guy that he put number 3 than Julius Randle. Anyway,
but who knows if that guy is tomorrow or if that guy is going to come up on Thursday. So we'll see.
You never know. How do you think the majority of fans hold Julius Randle in terms of their current opinion of him? I know this is something that we kind of do at the end, usually with lasting legacy. I think we have to start here because I think fans' opinion of this player were so wildly all over the place from the moment he got here until the moment he left. And there was, maybe with the exception of 3-4 months during the We Here season, which I have the towel for over my left shoulder now, like it was just the definition of division, to the point that it made the Carmelo Anthony divisiveness in terms of the conversation about him and the fan base almost seem like pale in comparison. Not that there weren't a disparity of opinions about Melo, but I think everybody agreed on what Melo generally was. It was about whether you liked him or not. I feel like Julius Randle was here for 5 years, and there was not even agreement over how good is this player? Like, what is he? What is this player? So I've got to ask you first, Deej, because we know DJ stands for the defender of Julius.
Yeah, it's so complex. I know that's been kind of a theme when doing these 25 for 25. Like there's just a lot of complexity with some of these players that we've talked about, and I don't think there's one that represents that more than Julius, because for as much as I loved him as a player, I can't deny that it was a roller coaster, and it was a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and there's a myriad of reasons why that probably happened. We could talk about him as a player, the skill set, the maybe some lack of synergy with certain players, and maybe a leash that was too long from the head coach. But I go back to like the personality of Randle, where I think if there's anything that maybe held him back or made life a little more difficult than maybe it needed to be, because when you look at like stars, especially if you go back to like the last 25 years, stars in New York City, there's a lot of difference between them as players. But one thing I think is a commonality is that you have to sort of be a person that is not willing to divulge a lot. You have to kind of play the game, whether it's with the media, with the fans. Wearing your emotions on your sleeve doesn't work great when you're the star player in New York City, whether that's Eli Manning or David Wright, Mike Piazza, Mariano Rivera. I mean, you go down the list. Stars in New York City tend to have a certain personality. Julius didn't have that. What you saw is what you got. And I think that was, for me at least, appealing in terms of like respecting him, that he told you exactly what was on his mind all the time. And you saw it on his face, good or bad, all the time. But it also probably lent itself to maybe some struggles. When things would get tough, it would kind of snowball. And I think that was why, in large part, his time here had these ebbs and flows, and the consistency within seasons was there. But if you look at these 5 years, there's just a lot of ups and downs. Now, there was a lot of great, and I think that's why I had him, and maybe you guys too had him number 3, because those highs were elite, all NBA level, but the lows were really low. And we have to also acknowledge that when we're trying to talk about him overall in terms of his 5 years here.
It's funny you hit mostly on the off-court stuff, which is a whole nother conversation. Andrew, do you think the fans gave Julius a fair shake while he was here?
Yes, because he has some accountability for why the fans reacted the way that they did to some of the ways that he would show up for games and then not show up for games, look like a lockdown defender that you couldn't get past in the post, and then just be a matador on some games. The way that DJ, you said it, the roller coaster of the Julius Randle experience, the way it just kind of showed in literally every year that you have that first season where he was the consolation prize to not getting Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Then the We Here season where it's the coming out party for both him and this new version of the Knicks. Then the step back he takes where we're in the offseason just wondering how they can trade him. I mean, just from a content standpoint, you remember, John, we were, okay, let's go to this content creator. Do you want Julius Randle? How about you? Do you want Julius Randle?
How many times did I say the name Harrison Barnes in connection with
I'll just take anything. And again, the addition by subtraction that it was felt at the end of that season. Then he comes back the next year with Jalen Brunson. It makes all NBA, has a commitment to take 8 to 9 threes a game. And then he has the ankle injury and the playoffs that left something to be desired. Then I know you all remember the beginning of the 23-24 season where he was the worst player of all time.
Those first 6 games.
Yeah. It was shooting like 17% in those first 5 games. And then he turned into an all-star again over the next 2.5 months. And then they finally put a team around him that, I mean, just around everybody, that starting 5 in January 24 will, I've said it throughout this list, will be the best version of the Knicks this century that I believe existed. And we got to see it for about 12 games or 14 games. And he dislocates his shoulder and never plays for the Knicks again. That's a roller coaster I just described. In fact, I could even probably talk to a Timberwolves fan and say last season with Julius Randle was a roller coaster. That's just how I think you have to understand the Julius Randle experience. If he's on your team, there's going to be highs and you're going to enjoy him. He's going to look like one of the best power forwards you've ever seen. And then there's going to be lows where you wonder, are we better without him on the court? And I feel like the fans reacted to that experience the only way a human can unfortunately react to it.
Well, I mean, that's a natural transition to, like, again, how perfect was it that the end of his time in New York, I think of in 2 respects. At the end of the 23-24 season, again, this is just me, but I wasn't sitting there wondering as that season ended, oh man, how might things have been different if Julius Randle was on the court? I was thinking, oh man, how might things have been different if OG Anunoby doesn't pull his hamstring? That was the much bigger what if for me, which again speaks to like what the fact that we could never agree on like how valuable was. I mean, he was, again, to your point, DJ, when he was good, he was great. He was incredibly valuable. But there's also this other part, and like I'm thinking of like, you know, Zach Lowe literally the other day on his podcast is talking about the Timberwolves and talking about like how can they like become like that, like a true blue, like get that over that last hump. And he's talking about, well, right now it's like Naz Reid doesn't work with Julius Randle, but then Julius Randle doesn't also really work with Rudy Gobert because there's defensive issues and offensive issues. And it comes back to the same stuff with Julius, which is like for the modern league, I'm not going to say he's a square peg for a round hole, but he's not the perfect, you know, modern version of what you would expect from that position. And then the last part, I will never forget how I felt when I first saw the Karl-Anthony Towns news, which was that, oh my God, we're losing Dante DiVincenzo, a guy who had played 1 season here and averaged, I don't know how many points he averaged, whatever many points he averaged, but like Julius was like, oh yeah, okay, we got rid of Julius's contract. We got something for Julius's contract, you know? And that felt shitty of me. But I also, you know, that's how I felt.
Yeah. We got Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle, which is why I was able to get over the like losing Julius, quote unquote. There was a very clear addition that you were getting in his place. The Dante thing, and look, maybe this just goes to what that back half of 2024 was. That was a connection to what seemed to be an identity the team was forming. And I hear what you're saying, that we left the end of the season thinking OG Anunoby's absence was felt more so than Julius Randle. I also, if I'm allowed to, I missed both come playoff time. I would have loved to
absolutely
see
allowed to.
I didn't think they had I don't want to say I think they had a chance against Boston with Anunoby. I thought Boston would win that series, but the Knicks would have made it tough on them. I thought the Knicks could have beat the Celtics with Randle. That January version fully realized. With Josh Hart coming off the bench, with Deuce coming off the bench, if Mitch comes back for the playoffs, like that top 8, are you kidding me? So like, yeah, DJ, I don't know how you feel, but it was interesting watching the Minnesota experience last year, seeing them go through the lows around when the Knicks came to play the Timberwolves in December. And my algorithm online just putting every negative post about him in front of me from Minnesota. And then come playoff time, they go on that run and they go to the conference finals, and he's finally having like the best version of him in the playoffs. And I felt happy for him personally, but
so did I.
Like that's the roller coaster we're talking about. That there will be moments where you wonder if your team is better without him, while also recognizing he's a pretty damn good basketball player that I think is appropriately ranked at number 3 on this list.
Yeah, and in terms of how he fits, especially in the modern game, I think John, your point, the fit of him as a defensive player is always going to be a challenge. And I do think there's been enough development in terms of his game where I do think he fits in a lot of ways the modern game offensively. But again, it goes back to what version of him are you getting? Because that 22-23 version was the ultimate modern NBA forward with the threes that he was taking per game.
Yes.
That player that was a 1-year phenomenon. Like, he still takes threes, but it's more 4 or 5 a game, not 6 or 7, not at the types of threes he was taking. I mean, we were talking trail threes, pull-up threes off the dribble, just an insane. Who could forget that Miami game?
Oh my Lord.
We may or may not talk about in that 22-23 season in Miami. There was a level that he got to as a shooter that is probably not coming back. So if you are going to be more of a back to the basket force, which is what he kind of turned into in that 23-24 season after the injury, he was coming off ankle surgery. After he got that under wraps, he was in large part a callback in a way to where you're getting a lot of bully ball, a lot of back to your basket, create a double team, kick it out for threes. That was the Julius Randle that we saw. And that's the Julius Randle that I think requires you to have some imagination regarding how does your team operate in that sort of context, because it does make your spacing a little more compromised. It does create a thing where Julius is going to have to command more of that on-ball share if you're going to get him the best out of him, while also trying to figure out if that is the best for your team. And I think that is the big question with Julius is, can his best version be the best version for the team? Because even in that 23-24 season, that January month, if you take all those on-off numbers and you remove Julius and you just keep DiVincenzo, Anunoby, Brunson, Hartenstein, it wasn't like Julius was adding to the on-off number. If you took him on, they were great when he was on, great when he was off. So it does, even as the biggest defender of him, it does beg the question about, is Julius at his best, the best for the team? And I think that is where it's just going to be a thing that until he retires will be a big question for him.
And I think by extension, like you're talking about, accommodations that you have to make to maybe get the best version of Julius. You make accommodations for star players if they're, and look, the top star players, you don't have to make accommodations for, but there are very, very, very few of them. And then there is a level down where it's star players. It's like, okay, we're going to make accommodations for this player. Jalen Brunson is a great example. Let's surround Jalen Brunson with a bunch of, defenders up until they traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. But again, look who they traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. So it's like they were, was Julius any better than Cat defensively? That's an interesting conversation. And then that goes back to the perception of him around the league. Like, again, not to go back to Zach Lowe again, but like, it's always funny when you hear him talking about hear him talking about all NBA and awards voting whenever he's like, well, yeah, there are just some years where like you'll have guys make all NBA that are, and the name he always brings up is Julius Randle. Like, you're going to have some years where Julius Randle makes all NBA, and he's not doing it to disparage Julius Randle. He's been on Julius Randle Island since Randle was like drafted into the league. But I think Randle, as is perceived around the league, I don't know about by Knicks fans, is like, and it's funny because Andrew, hearing you talk the other day about Stoudemire, you were not really you were referring to Stoudemire as something like less than a true star. I think Julius is kind of in that same boat in a lot of respects.
I think what Stoudemire was with the Knicks was, for the majority of his time here, less than a true star. When he came here, again, they had just made the conference finals. This was Stat coming here from Phoenix, and all those deep playoff runs and the battles with the Spurs that you thought they were getting. And for one half a season, maybe a full season, that he made all NBA and was an all-star starter, there was exactly what you want from a superstar. And then the injuries started to pile up, and then the fit with Melo started to become a conversation. And with Julius, I don't know how else to say it. They accomplished more with him. They got more from him over his tenure than they did with Amari Stoudemire. Just from a quantity standpoint, the fact that he made more All-NBA teams, more All-Star teams than Stat. From a quality standpoint, they advanced further in the playoffs. I guess to the same point in the playoffs with Julius than they did with Stat. Yeah, I will say that the fact that both, and we mentioned this yesterday, John, both inflection points with 2010 being what it was, getting Stat, and the Knicks are back. And then it really wasn't until you have the beginning half of that season, but it wasn't really until Melo came that you saw a different version. But that was like an era that began then. And then with Julius, like, he's there and it's not all that great. And then they get Tibbs. And like, if I'm crediting people for the Knicks turnaround here in the 2020s, it's like 4 people that I credit. And it's Julius, it's Jalen, it's Tibbs, it's Leon. And I hate to say it, Julius falls fourth on that list, but he becomes like the poster child for what the Knicks turned around. Look what, because he's not just the 2020s. He's part of the 2019 nonsense too. Not that it's his fault. But like, he is a holdover from the 2019 nonsense that they turned into an all-NBA player, that they realized as an all-NBA player. And that, I think, speaks to what they've become over the last 5 years.
Man, I think I have to take a turn as the defender of Julius here. I might put him first on that. Not saying he's better than Jalen Brunson, but I think I might put him first on that list in terms of being I'm going to use your phrase, being responsible for the turnaround. Tom Thibodeau's, obviously, everybody knows, I think he's a great coach. He's a coach. Mm-hmm. You know, he can't do it on the floor. He needed a horse. Leon Rose made a lot of good moves. They needed a horse. Jalen Brunson got here 2 years later. So if it's, you know, and then it's like, how do you draw the line between this version of the Knicks that is now co-favorites with the Cleveland Cavaliers to win the conference versus the version, the pre-Brunson version, I'll call it, which, again, I think your perception of Julius Randle probably depends on your perception of the pre-Brunson Knicks for those 2 years. Was it one fluke season and empty gyms that meant not a whole lot of anything, other than to those of us who were sitting here, you know, after games being like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever, you know, and then, or was that really the foundation? And I think that's probably your opinion of Julius comes down to your opinion on that. And DJ, I think I know which way you lean.
Yeah, I do think probably give him a little more credit than Andrew gave him there, but not by much. But just in terms of that, I remember the first game of his second season against Indiana. Like, he didn't have a huge game, but there was like 7 or 8 assists, and just his command of the offense. And it was clear that he was given a little more leeway here to sort of explore that space. And like RJ had a big game that night and shooting the ball. And there was like, all right, is there something here? And he kind of just carried it over. And I think that year there was some, unsustainability in terms of the shot making, especially in the mid range. Like that, to me, the most like recognizable shot was like him on the right side of the court, taking 2 dribbles to his right, fading out of bounds, and somehow making every one of those shots from about 20 feet away. Like it was incomparable how good he was in that area. And he obviously replicated those types of years, but in different ways. But there was just not a lot there on that We Here team in terms of like who he was, passing the ball to and who was creating offense until at least Derrick Rose got there. So for him to have that type of year and, as you said, establish maybe a baseline was massive for this team and this franchise to get some credibility in the building.
Before we get to the oh, sorry.
I just want to defend the when I say he's fourth, I mean that he's not here anymore. Like and Tibbs is not here anymore either. And to where the Knicks are now, I think the part of the Julius Randle conversation, it became, will he be here when they're ready to ascend the mountaintop? And while he gets a lot of credit, maybe most of the credit for the actual turning around that they did, he falls in the top 4, and I would put him at 4th, but he has to be mentioned in the conversation. Like if you want to put him first for it, fine, in a different version of the conversation, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that I don't hate Julius Randle, Knicks fans listening into this. I also, DJ, I had to go make sure I remember the box score correctly. You're right about the Indiana game to open the 2020 season. He had 9 assists in a 14-point loss, but it was like, oh wow, Julius Randle got a bunch of assists. And correct me if I'm wrong, for the 3 of us, I went into that season thinking, all right, so when are they trading Julius Randle? Because the Obi Toppin season needs to begin. The Obi Toppin experience, because we're tanking. Cade Cunningham, right? That's the prize at the end of this season. 4 games in, they go to Cleveland, and he puts up 28, 12, and 11 in a 9-point Knicks win. And it was like, all right, what is this? Because now he's averaging like 8 assists a game through the first 4. They're 2-2. Am I suddenly buying into what they're turning Julius Randle into? Well, I've also mentioned at the end of this game was when I may have placed a wager on Julius Randle to win Most Improved Player that eventually led to an engagement ring. So
it's the smartest bet you ever made. Mm-hmm. And it was like a month probably worth of conversations about like, should we be trading this guy because his value is at his highest, or should we be leading into this? Before we get to the categories, DJ, do we have you for a little bit longer, or do you have to get Jet? Okay,
let's do it.
Because I was going to skip to a different category, but we could start at the top with best memory, lasting image as a Knick. I thought of this 25 for 25 idea, so I'm going to go first so I could take my pick, which is the Miami game. I will never forget Pat Riley's face in that picture. Which is poster worthy. I wish I had that made into a poster. And it was truly the perfect encapsulation of the Julius Randle experience. That game, that ball was an inch away from bouncing off of his heel into Jimmy Butler's hands, and instead it just bounced back into his hands. He got it and put up the shot, and then trucked over Tibbs with reckless abandon, which just made it even more special.
One of the funniest moments of his Knicks tenure. Yeah, the trucking over of Tibbs was incredible. I'm putting that photo up that you're talking about, by the way, John. Pat Riley is right behind Julius. If you look at him in the tunnel, there's Pat the Rat and Alonzo Mourning's stupid face looking at it too. So there you go.
What's funny about that game, well, kind of a microcosm of the Julius experience, is that the possession before he turns it over.
Oh, yes.
Leads to the lead that they had to then.
Yes. And then it was just like, what are we doing here in this last possession? Loses the ball, as you said, John, like 2 or 3 times. Somehow gets it back, and then obviously makes an incredible shot.
It would have been,
by the way.
Yes, it would have been a dispiriting loss because I think they had a
big lead, double digits.
15-point lead at halftime, and they almost blew it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were in a playoff race and the whole thing. I don't care. DJ, you want to go next?
Andrew, why don't you? Because I think the one I have is I'm going to take yours. I think
No,
we probably
you go. I promise you're not, because
Okay.
I'm pulling mine up and it'll speak to a different. I want you guys to do the on-court memory. So by all means, go right ahead. Please do.
got it. Well, I don't know if this is on court. It was the We Hear season, and it was
New York. We hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's those press conferences or those like media things after the game with the Knicks, with the MSG Network, and the fact that the players would join him every once in a while, and he ends one with the New York We Hear. I mean, it felt like a moment at the time, like this was a big deal, and just like the delivery of it and how confident he was, and it was like literally I saw that. It was like, where's the wall somewhere? I need to run through something right now because I am so fired up that this guy is like so bought into whatever is being built here. And John, I think you mentioned this recently, that you didn't know where it was going to lead in terms of like upside of this team.
Yeah.
But I was so bought in in terms of just how they were doing it, how they were operating, and Julius sort of orchestrating it all. It was magical at the time. And that moment, the We Hear moment, that delivery and that post game was pretty big for me.
It got to the point where if you didn't allow yourself to give in, you just weren't a fan. Whatever logic you want to, no, that was, look, it was not to the level of like, the Indiana Pacers last season, but for Knick fans that had been through what we had been through and the disappointments, I mean, I'll let Andrew speak because I have a feeling he might cover this a little bit.
Well, so I've for those who may be new to Knicks Film School, I've also spoken to what the We Hear season meant. It's hard to separate it or divorce it from what the world was going through for the weeks and months leading up to that basketball season with no gym, with no fans for the first however many months, and then like dealing with the pandemic and its effects on all of us and our mental health, the communal experience of watching, I say mental health, just a regular health, what the pandemic did to all of us. But the communal experience of watching basketball together, and it's like, oh wow, this is a distraction from what's going on in the world, was special. And obviously Knicks Film School benefited from it. It's the first year we started doing post games on our YouTube channel, and we rode that wave. And I'm going to cheat and give you two, because if I'm going with to DJ's point, a on-court but not really on-court memory that is more of him on a microphone, the first one I'll go to is the first game that they allowed some fans in attendance. It was like 2,000 fans were allowed to go in. Was also the game he was named an All-Star for the first time. And he took the mic for the first time addressing Knicks fans that had been wanting to partake in what that season had been. And he just thanked Knicks fans for the support. We're glad to have you back. And it really was for me. Like, I got emotional watching it in the moment. Like, this is a step back towards normalcy that I will always remember. The second one, and I've spoken to this, I also developed an appreciation and a joy for him and Kaiden, like him and his son on the bench. And that was the first year where I started like following the Knicks on Instagram and became more active in that platform. And when he eventually won Most Improved Player, Kaiden was the one that got to present him. We'll see if the quality works on here, but let's watch how the Knicks presented Julius with his Most Improved Player award.
I was surprised my dad was most award.
That's great.
What do you have there, Kaiden?
A trophy.
Whose trophy?
My dad's.
Oh.
Yes, sir. I wake up for. That's why I work hard, so I can give y'all my best. So I appreciate y'all just trusting me, believing in me, all that, man. And the most improved is cool, but let's get wins, man. That's all.
All right.
That
was awesome.
I mean, if that so as a parent, it absolutely warms your heart.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's a reminder about two things which maybe we didn't always I didn't always appreciate enough, which is one, his work ethic was second to none. Impeccable work ethic. And two, I truly believe his intentions were always in the right place. For as much as what happened on the court may not have always made us happy or resulted in what was best for the team, I really don't think he's the sort of. I think on the scale of players in terms of how much they really are selfless, just want the team to win. I believe he's pretty high up there on that scale.
It's the thing that in talking to Fred a lot about, like, tell me a little bit more about Julius Randle, because he's an enigma to try to figure out as a personality, and he's like, he's just not that much of it. He's an introverted person, so he doesn't thrive in like group settings. He likes just hanging out with his son and hanging out with his family and like watching movies. And there was that report, the sideline report from Rebecca Harlow, that he spends his summer binging Yellowstone. And like, rather than going out and enjoying New York City, like, you live on the east side and you decide on your Tuesday you're just gonna stay home and watch Paramount Plus. Like, he's not the most outgoing person. And this city was starting to bring out, and this team was bringing out more of his personality. And I got to see it carefully curated, of course, on Instagram. But then when they got traded, and I say they because it was like, man, I'm getting, like, Kendra did a video like, yeah, we were thinking about looking to move to Greenwich, and now we're looking at places in Minnesota a week after school just started for my son. And like, then we found out like a month later, she's expecting a little girl, and now they're moving and like the human element of basketball, and all of that really came through the Randles for me. And I missed the Randles when they got traded, and that experience. I'll also just say, from the video that got, seeing Tibbs without a beard was a bit jarring. I forgot there was like a 2-year stretch where he didn't have
most
a
of the
beard.
time. Where,
yeah. Honestly, it ended up being less because he had 3 years with a beard and 2 years without. Yeah, and one of those years he wore a mask the whole time.
It all runs together. That was great. That was a great pull, Andrew. Thank you. Okay, leads us into a category which is probably the easiest category that any of us have done on any of these shows, which is biggest regret, something we wish would have gone differently or better, even if it was out of the player's control. I mean, it's the initial injury. It's, did he try to rush back from the shoulder injury, and might that have, made it worse, or, would he have had a better chance of recovery if he had waited longer? Any version of the 2023-24 season and how that was going a certain type of way, and then it went a different way. And yet, as I say that, like, I've spoken openly about how the post Randle injury, the post OG injury version of that team is maybe the team that I connected to the most, since of any team this century. So I don't know. It's an interesting category.
That's the obvious one for me. And it was obviously the first one I thought of. The other one is just the ankle injury before the year before. I mean, the fact that he came back, re-injures it in a game 5 against Cleveland, where I've talked about this game openly. Like, there was a switch that went off during that game where he was looking at Evan Mobley, and he said, you know what? I'm just going through his chest on every possession. And he was building towards what I think would have been his best overall game in a game the Knicks are obviously going to win. And then he injures it again. Second time in, I don't know, a few weeks that he injures his ankle. Never healthy in the Miami series, even though in that series he had some good moments, but the ankle never really was healthy. And I think if you got a healthy Julius Randle, if that ankle was sound, I think they beat Miami. They almost beat him with him clearly hampered, hobbled. And, that one is not the shoulder injury, but it's a pretty close one in terms of like, God, I wish he was healthy for that playoff run.
It's a fantastic what if. Andrew, you got one? Another one?
Well, so the very obvious one that I've made the case for is what you mentioned, John, that he's healthy and just doesn't go back in the game against Miami in January of 2024. That team was 11-1 with Randle, OG, and Brunson on the floor. They looked unbeatable. Their net rating was through the roof. I did develop the same connection to said end of 2024 team for sure. The why not now Knicks. I also the connection I have was the underdog mentality. I did not think they were underdogs in January. I thought they were developing into a front runner, into a contender before our eyes, and then we just never saw it again. If I want to get creative, just with a third honorable mention, and to be clear, it is not one that I actually regret all that much. The words thumbs down need to be mentioned. And it's not even that he did that. It's that the tenor around that season got to the point where he goes out for getting COVID, and the entire fan base, and he's spoken to how online he was. The majority, a very loud portion of the fan base celebrated that he got a sickness that killed like hundreds of thousands of people, and they were like, great, Julius caught it, we can watch Obi now. And he comes back after being in quarantine for a week, has a 30-point game, but RJ has a 30-point game too. And while Julius is at the line, they're chanting RJ Barrett's name, and he's like, man, what I went through last year with this city, I showed up here. And I'm just like, again, the consolation prize to you. We didn't get Katie and Kyrie, and now we get Julius Randle. Then we go through what we went through last year, the We Here season. Now I'm back this year. I'm struggling to make Evan Fournier work, a guy who ended up not in the rotation less than a calendar year later. And like, why is this fan base turned on me? And then the following game after the one I'm talking about was the thumbs down game, where he had a horrific first half, starts to turn it on in the second half. They end up, that's the RJ buzzer beater game. Yep. And
they were down 26 in that game. I think
that I believe it's still the biggest comeback in franchise history in a regular season game. I'm assuming I don't know what this. Ironically, it's a 20-point comeback against the Celtics, which colored this past postseason as well. The trail I'm leading up to as to how we ended up at thumbs down, and I'll always remember the Stephen Bondi article that came out that was like, let me give you some behind the scenes of what Julius Randle's gone through since coming to New York. I'm not surprised. He shouldn't have done it, shouldn't have given the thumbs down to the crowd, shouldn't have told the crowd to shut the F up. I'm not surprised if he eventually got to the point of shut the F up. Like, at a certain point, leave me alone. And that speaks to some of his introverted tendencies, but also an unfortunate moment, which is why thank God for Jalen Brunson, because him coming here, I think, re-engaged everybody back into this team and the upward trajectory that the franchise was intended to go in.
I just realized I should have brought a paper plate to this.
When I sat down, I was like, oh, I don't have a paper plate with me. But that's just how that season went. That everybody was mad at everybody, and nobody wanted to actually point to who was to blame for it, because there was no one clear person who was to blame for it.
Well, if you really want to go out of left field with biggest regret, what if the Knicks don't sign Kemba Walker and, like, I don't know, start quickly from day one, but that was never going to happen. Okay. This is the question that I was going to skip to if DJ had to leave early. What role would this player have on the current team? My simple question for both of you guys is, would Julius Randle starting alongside Karl-Anthony Towns be tenable?
No.
Defensively, no.
Because you guys talked about this with Stoudemire.
Yeah.
I think there would be less synergy between a Randle and a Towns in some, trying to think.
You could run the offense through Randle more.
You could run the offense through Randle and Towns be more of that spacing big man, but then are you maximizing? I don't think it would work. I think you could probably develop a pretty dynamic offense, but I do think there would be a diminishing return situation there pretty quickly, considering Jalen Brunson is still on the team and Anunoby and Bridges. I don't think it would be tenable on. The more I think about it, on either end of the floor. Because I think you would run into a situation where, like, how are we keeping everyone happy here? I mean, OG Anunoby is, I think, pretty clearly it has a certain expectation about what he needs on the offensive end. Bridges as well. They're confident players and they feel like they can help on offense. So I don't see a world where it's a championship level team or even an Eastern Conference. I think you would have such a struggle making it all work on both ends of the court where I just don't see it. Don't see it.
What year are they competing in? And where
This
I'm
year.
going with that. So
year.
they didn't. You mentioned how he was starting to find his legs in that Cavs series. And you pointed to game 5, how he was starting to really dominate and have his way with Mobley. I know it's 3 years later. The play I go to for the Cavs series that let me know not only do the Knicks have a chance to win this series, I think they're going to, is when Quentin Grimes hit the game-sealing free throws at the end of game 1. Knicks fans, please, I put it in our Hall of Fame episode last year when we did the Julius Randle Hall of Fame and picked 10 games. Please go watch Julius Randle's box out of Evan Mobley on the second Quentin Grimes free throw. Evan Mobley ends up in the 3rd row, and it's just like, no, you're not that guy. Like this is my rebound. Okay, you're gonna go all the way over there, and I think some of that still exists with the Cavs, and they're the only team that I think would be in the Knicks' way to get to the finals. So if that's the team that I'm worried about, granted, Mobley's better, and you still have the option to go to Mitch if you'd want to. I agree that the defensive concerns just flat out exist because you're asking so much of OG and Mikal Bridges if you're putting them out there with Randle, Cat, and Brunson. In a similar vein to Stat, though, I do think your offense would be pretty gangbusters, and I wonder if that would be enough.
I don't. It's an interesting. The question that I think we may be pondering for some time is, what if they just never make the Cat trade? Which I know this is not the first time I brought this up during this podcast series, but I hope we're not talking about this, 5, 10, 20 years from now.
Well, one thing that is part of why they made the Cat trade that I think goes to
center.
And it goes to the other thing about Julius we haven't mentioned yet, Iron Man. Like, I know it's so weird that his season and his career with the Knicks ended because of an injury, because his first 3 seasons with the Knicks, he's never missed games. Like, that was one of the things he was wanting to do during his second All-NBA season. He wanted to play 82 games, and he ends up hurting his ankle and missing the rest of that season.
Yep.
But that was a thing about Randle. In fact, I believe we used to have conversations that he looks very tired. I wonder if a day off or a load management game would do him well. And this was a team under Tibbs. Like, we don't take days off. So
do you remember the whole thing with when he had when Kylan was just born and he had people were like, is it that he's not getting sleep because he had a baby in the house? Or
you talk about the second born with Jace.
Oh, maybe maybe the second one.
But that's what a lot of people spoke about during the thumbs down season. Was like they just had a newborn. I mean, I remember you even relating to that because you had just had Izzy, or your Dolores had just had Izzy, and you were able to empathize with. You have 2 toddlers in the house. It's complete chaos at all times. Even if you're a professional athlete and you can hire help. DJ, can I play it out? Because one of the things I do think about Cat is that you can't really run the offense through him like you did with, like, you use his gravity in different ways. It's a lot of, because you have to pay attention to him as a shooter, he commands more attention. With Julius, it's an on-ball gravity. Mm-hmm. So there's more catch and shoot opportunities, like we talked about at the beginning of this. And that went away when Randle was gone. So if you're telling me that you now replace, like, instead of Hartenstein, or in this case, instead of Mitch, you have Cat, and he's not in the dunker spot, and Julius, one of the best downhill players, is now surrounded by Brunson and Cat and OG and Bridges. Like, how are you stopping that offense?
Yeah, no, the way you put it, I don't know how you stop it, but also if Mike Brown is the coach, you would have to play a certain way, and you would not play Mike Brown basketball in that way. Because I think the theory being is you could maybe run your offense through Karl-Anthony Towns in Mike Brown's offense, where commanding a double team on the block is not as central to the concepts and the style. But if you have Julius on the floor, and to your point, Andrew, he is the on-ball gravitational pull. That has not been the way Mike Brown views offense, and maybe not the way to generate the best, most seamless offense for a Jalen Brunson, led team. So it's you would probably have to acquiesce a bit if you're a head coach, and you certainly would have a ton of guys to sort of figure it out with. But I don't know if it works. And I think you'd have a lot of unhappy role players on that team.
John, you've said it. There's one ball. Yeah.
OG getting 6 shots a game. I just
oh, he did fine. Yeah, he wouldn't complain about it silently at all. Yeah.
Funny, no OG on media day today. Okay. Let's finish up. Lasting legacy with Knick fans. We kind of opened the show with this, so I don't want to belabor the point. I think everybody, whether you were a defender of Julius like DJ, or someone who was always skeptical of the team's ceiling, not only when he was their best player, but for as long as he was maybe even on the team, I think you appreciate what he did for the franchise. I think you appreciate what he meant to the city and this fan base. And I think you recognize he is not a good Knick. He is a great Knick. Like, we haven't done the stats and accolades thing, which I'm just very briefly right now, I'm going to steal from my newsletter that I wrote about Julius a week or two ago. Him and Melo both had 2 All-NBA appearances apiece for the Knicks. Both had 1 second team and 1 third team. Both had 7 playoff wins apiece. Both had 5 of those wins in the first round, 2 in the second round. Both had 3 winning seasons apiece. And they both missed large portions of one of those seasons. If you add up their points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals as a Knick, Julius Randle, 38.2. Carmelo Anthony, 36.4. It's a difference of perception. Like, everybody agrees that Carmelo Anthony is one of the all-time greats in NBA history, and that is also because he had a lot of years before coming to the Knicks, which were notable, and had some years after the Knicks. Now, Julius, we don't know where his career is going to go, but like, I don't think Julius gets looked at in the same way as Carmelo Anthony, just perception-wise, and the numbers kind of suggest that maybe they should be.
I don't disagree, by the way. And we don't really talk about the voting that much. I was shocked that it was near unanimous. I thought there would be more people that put Julius ahead of Melo. But I think it's very clear 1, 2, 3 for me. And we'll talk about number 2 and number 1. We'll see who it ends up being when we do our next 2 shows. Who knows? I'm sure you're all very waiting with a bated breath to see who we put at number 1 and number 2. I think the voting actually bore out, as far as the final results are concerned, as it should have. Like, yeah, Melo's a very clear 2 over 3. Like, the majority of people outside of one person put Melo ahead of Julius. And I as far as my legacy with Julius Randle is concerned and how I will always remember him, again, we spoke to this. The turnaround of this decade, it was showcased during a season that will forever mean something to all of us. And it was also his career turnaround. This guy that was told by the Lakers, we're good, because they signed LeBron James. And then he went to New Orleans, had a great year after they lost Anthony Davis to a season of malarkey. And then they were also like, we're good. They drafted Zion. So obviously that made the decision easier. But then the Knicks, you came here, and after a season of nonsense, you really embraced the city for a time that the city needed you. And I will always appreciate that you had your career turnaround in our franchise, in our building, for our fan base. And I said this on Game Theory when he had that moment against the Lakers in the playoffs. Like, a part of me was really happy that he had playoff success this year, had that great first round against the Lakers, got to a conference finals. It wasn't just the Knicks getting to the conference finals. It was Julius Randle also in the Western Conference getting to the conference finals. So I'll always have a way to root for him as long as he's not playing the Knicks, which would make for a very interesting finals if it happens.
You never know. Deej?
Yeah, I think the thing I look back at him, and we talked about some, his legacy as a leader of this franchise, I think has, again, more of the roller coaster aspect to it. But the thing I think about is what the young players, and he had a lot of them that were role players on this team. How did they view him? Whether it's RJ or Quick, Grimes, Toppin, they all seem to have a genuine affection for him. I think a lot of that was he was the one sort of like taking, the bows and arrows and all that, and dealing with the media and being the fulcrum until Jalen got here. But also, his work ethic, his preparedness, the fact that he was in the gym all the time trying to better himself. Tibbs gets a lot of credit for sort of getting a lot of guys paid, but I think Julius, his work ethic and in the way he went about his business was really big for those young players that came here, very impressionable. And he was the first one they saw. And then it was Jalen. And it was clear that those two stars had a certain way of going about it. Tibbs obviously setting the expectation, but you have to have your stars sort of embody that. And I think Julius really did. And I think that deserves to have a pretty high on your legacy mark in terms of, where the Knicks were, the young players that were very important and played big minutes for them, and how they view Julius as a leader on this team.
I haven't sat there and really done the exercise. I think there was an argument that Julius Randle is one of the 10 greatest Knicks of all time. I don't know that I would sit here and make the argument. It gets complicated, especially when you consider some of the old guys. I'm talking about the 50s guys, 50s and 60s. But it's like his stats and accolades, and again, the role he played, and as you guys just spoke very eloquently about in several respects. And yet, I know there's probably people who are going to hear that and be like, "What, Mac, are you on fucking drugs? Top 10 Knick of all time?" Because that opinion also exists, which is, again, what makes Julius Randle one of one. And he's a fascinating player. He's a fascinating player to talk about, to think about. And I'll just end by saying I wish him, like you, Andrew, all the best in Minnesota. I hope if the Knicks don't win the championship this year, I mean, I hope the Timberwolves do.
But the Knicks are going to win the championship this year.
82-0. 98-0. Oh,
thank you. 98-0. What are you doing? We have 2 super chats.
Oh, okay, cool. I could. Well, if you have them handy, otherwise,
I am not touching anything.
Well, this is why you got the big boys in the house right here. Juanon, gonna smoke a blunt and double spin into traffic today to salute Julius. Hope you had a good summer, fellas. Hashtag hire Tibbs. We got to make the hashtag hire Tibbs the official hashtag of the season.
Why?
Because I don't know. I don't have a good reason.
Fire Brown is the
Fire
hashtag,
Brown.
Sir. We're already firing coaches. Someone go ahead.
Thank you for that. And we didn't talk about the weed stuff. It's part of his legacy now because, again, DJ, you talked about it earlier in the conversation about how there were high highs and low lows. Again, we're not putting words in anybody's.
Did you do that on purpose?
I didn't do it.
Did you do that on purpose?
Didn't do it on purpose.
That was well done. Julius and his high highs.
If only I was that good. I'm not that good at podcasting.
That's great.
Taking the words from his mouth. We don't have to assume anything. Julius said it. He's like, there were times where I just, I wasn't fully there. So I don't, we don't need to have that conversation that I talked about on the pod a few weeks ago. It's just, it's another part of the conversation. That's all. And then Sam L. Thank you, Sam. Spending $2 to make you talk about Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, Sam was upset that we didn't have Lin in the 25.
As he should be, because he should be in the top 25. I voted him in the top 25. Andrew
I voted him
in the top 25.
I'll put the
DJ,
voting.
Did you?
I don't think I did.
That's a shame.
pretty sure I didn't. I don't have the voting handy.
I have
but
it in a second. I will just
Okay.
say to Sam, there is an honorable mention episode with very gigantic quotes around the word honorable, where me, Sean with the W, and Jeff J all talked about why Jeremy Lin didn't make the list. DJ, you had Jeremy Lin ranked 25th exactly.
Okay.
So you did have him in your top 25. I
There you
had
go.
him 24. John had him 24. Highest ranking was 21st out of anybody. Sam, we apologize. Go listen to that episode if you want to know why he didn't make the list. Go listen to our conversation with Jeremy Lin from a couple years ago if you want to hear why he could have made the list, why John put him on the list. Yes.
Yeah, why there was not going to be a list without Jeremy Lin. And again, this has as much to do with Jeremy Lin as it does Julius Randle. What I'm about to say, there are people who Jeremy Lin has as Knicks fans who have more of a fondness for Jeremy Lin for what he did over the course of whatever it was, 2.5, 3 weeks, than they do for Julius Randle for what he did over the course of 5 years. That's just the way things go sometimes. Thank you, Sam. And thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of the Knicks Film School podcast. Thank you, DJ and Andrew, for making the time today. Please go ahead, like this video, subscribe to all the channels, all of our social media feeds, all that good stuff. And we will be back. I think the rest of this week is we're back tomorrow at noon to talk about the number 2 Knick in the last 25 seasons. Then number 1 Knick on Thursday at noon. Both of those shows will be live. And then not sure where. What?
And then nothing.
And then nothing. We're done.
Because we're going to see PTA in his new movie.
I really hope so. I got to send that text to find out what's going on Friday. Okay. We'll see everybody later. Peace out.